Something weird happened in the world of West Ham yesterday. I'll tell you now, 3 stories from 3 separate journalists all hit the newsreel at the same time, and they were all hunches that David Moyes was fed up with West Ham and probably wouldn't be renewing his contract because basically he felt unloved. Call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but there's really something in that. For 3 separate journalists to do it, I find it a little bit odd and a little bit too much of a coincidence. Later on in the video, I'll be telling you how you can join myself and Gio to watch, not online, actually live, to watch the Bayern Leverkusen game, the one in Germany. If you can't get over to Germany, if you get over to Hackney Wick, you can come and join myself and Gio. Watch. We'll be doing a half an hour build-up show. Watch it on the big screen. Watch it all together. Hopefully, all celebrate all together. If not, we'll sort of wallow in our own sorrow, won't we? Well, we'll have another leg to claw it back, but I will be announcing the details of that later on in this video, so stay tuned. But for now, let's just talk about David Moyes, because he's... Tim Steidten, for instance. Tim Steidten knows Fabrizio Romano. So whenever Steidten, at the beginning of this season, was flying over on the private jet with, be it Mohamed Kudus or Edson Alvarez, I think Mavropanos was another one, that photo, that sort of selfie that was taken inside the jet, Fabrizio Romano would get it straight away. So it's quite clear. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here if I suggest that that picture would have been shared with Romano, and Romano shared it on his Twitter feed and wherever else he publishes his rumours and in-the-know stuff. My point being, that's Steidten's chosen way of communicating with, I guess, with the fans, with the press. A very modern way, isn't it? Moyes is old school. We know this. The old Moisasaurus does things somewhat differently. And we know that he deals with the mainstream media and the traditional press. That would be his avenue of choice. Yes, sometimes he does a podcast, but even his podcasts, by and large, have been with people like Graham Hunter, still old school people, people that he would trust. So I found the 3 journalists who at exactly the same time announced the same thing in terms of Henry Winter, Charlie Wyett and Jason Burt. They are traditional mainstream journalists, and the messaging was the same. That David Moyes is probably going to walk away at the end of the season. He'll probably find a job elsewhere. But it was what was attached to it. And it was that West Ham fans will regret it once he's gone. It was all too similar from 3 separate sources for it to be. Well, what are the chances that they all wake up on the same day, at the same time, and say the same stuff? I think it's really, really rare. There'd be nuanced differences in what they were saying. And let's be fair, in the wider world of football, there's probably bigger stories, right? There really was. You got the title race, you got the relegation stuff. Nottingham Forest, are they not going to claw themselves out of relegation? And you know, all this other stuff. Well, I would understand if they were West Ham journalists, if they were West Ham media, West Ham social media. To be fair, you're always looking for a West Ham story. But not these guys. I thought that was weird. So I can only assume that there's actually some truth in it. What I really disliked was one of the... Do you know what? It's lazy. This is lazy as hell. But it's an observation that's often made, and that is the Alan Kirbishley and Charlton one, which, if you don't remember... Charlton were a decrepit club, it has to be said. And they'd moved out. They were basically nomadic. They were playing in everybody else's stadium. And then what happened was they managed to get the Valley back, their home ground. But I mean, it was completely overrun. It really was. Honestly, it had grass growing out the stands. There's moss all over it. It needs to be rebuilt. They rebuilt it. Alan Kirbishley came in as joint caretaker manager at the time. And he rebuilt Charlton, and he got Charlton into the Premier League. So that they were nobodies. It got to a point where the Charlton fans, they found his football a little bit pragmatic. They wanted to go to the next level. And basically, this is where, as far as I'm concerned, the whole phrase of "be careful what you wish for" was spawned. Not globally, but I think in sort of football terms. So now, anybody that does that, the rest is history, by the way. They got rid of Kirbishley, and then they tumbled out the Premier League, and they haven't been seen since. So that's it. And so whatever happens is, if ever you are a Premier League club and you are not happy with your manager for footballing reasons, you will get told by the mainstream media, "Oh, well, be careful what you wish for." You know, we saw what happened to Charlton. And I'll tell you why it's lazy. Because, by the way, I do think that's true. I think at the time, Kirbyshire had Charlton in the top 10. And I think for Charlton, bearing in mind, I don't know what the value was, 20-odd thousand or something like that. I think that was it. I think that was as good as it could possibly get. Charlton were never going to win the league. And unfortunately, those same parameters are applied to West Ham or anybody else that might feel that they would like a new manager. But, be careful what you wish for. Like somehow we would change David Moyes and we would tumble out the league. A lot of these guys were saying David Moyes guarantees you Premier League football. Let me just nail this down once and for all right now. West Ham are not to be compared with Charlton. And I'll tell you why. Because we moved from Upton Park. We were a bigger club than Charlton anyway. We now play in a 60,000 capacity stadium. Our revenue streams are far in advance of anyone else. I think we're probably the 8th richest club in the Premier League. Charlton were never that. Charlton were batting above their average, all right? We are exactly where we should be. Let me just say that. Also, we have world-class players. Charlton never had world-class players. We have world-class players in our team. We really, really do. It's completely and utterly different. So I just want to say that because I do feel it's important to understand where these stories are coming from, because the story has been delivered to us that David Moyes has had enough and he feels unloved. That's a separate... I can understand why David Moyes would be annoyed about that, by the way. Let me just say that. But the fact that these stories, all three, are delivered with a warning suggests that they are very pro-Moyes. For all three to be the same and be pro-Moyes and sort of carry the same warning, I would suggest they've all come from the same source. And I will put it out there that source is probably David Moyes, or somebody very close to David Moyes. But what do we know? What do we know? Well, if we're going to take this as gospel, and it can't be, it's just a report, it is either a shot across the bows from West Ham, from David Moyes, or he really is leaving. Now, as I understand it, and I'm just trying to read between the lines here rather than take what I do think is a very, very partisan stance from those three journalists, and what the possibly reality is at West Ham. My reading of the situation would be that David Moyes has provisionally been offered a new deal. Not one that he can sign now, but I think he's probably glanced at the deal that he might get to sign if he's to stay next season. And as I understand it, that deal would mean that Moyes would have far less footballing control. He's basically a manager now. If he signed a new deal, would be a head coach. There's no doubt about it, and certainly information that I've heard within the last month has been that Tim Steidten really is involved in a lot of the transfer dealings and a lot of the preparation for next season. And I also believe, I don't believe everything I'm told. You get told a lot of stuff doing this stuff, but I believe that. I do believe that to be the case. And I think David Moyes is thinking, well, I can't be bothered. I think the worry for David Moyes, and he's not worried about it, but I think maybe he should be. If I was David Moyes, one thing I'd be concerned about is that those jobs that he obviously wants, which are a job where he can go in, he can be completely omnipotent, and he gets to decide every player that comes in and every footballing decision. I think those clubs are few and far between. I think even you look at the smaller clubs now, and particularly the smaller clubs that have done well, clubs like Brentford, clubs like Brighton, they have an infrastructure there. They have a director of football. They have a technical director. There are probably not too many clubs left where the manager has an overall say. The days of Fergie and Wenger are gone. Most Premier League clubs have head coaches. And I just wonder if David Moyes is slightly deluded in that sense. If possibly he thinks, well, actually, I'll leave West Ham. They don't appreciate me. They're going to take away some of my power. And I'm going to go somewhere else where I get full power. I'm not sure that even exists. I do think he'll get a job, 100%. David Moyes will be a sought-after manager. Not at the very top level, but for Premier League clubs, David Moyes, and they kept on saying it, David Moyes keeps you in the Premier League. David Moyes will keep you in the Premier League. He really will. I think he's at his best when he has average players and a small squad. If that is what you got, you stand a chance with this guy. You really, really do. So I do think he'll have job offers, but that offer of him, he's not going to go to another club like West Ham and get to coach the players that he's getting to coach at West Ham. That ain't happening. That's really not. There aren't too many clubs. You look at our front four, if you like. And, well, I was going to say you don't need me to say. Well, I will tell it to you anyway. Paquetá, Bowen, Antonio, because there are not too many clubs that have a front four as formidable as that. I would suggest at least two of those are world class. I'm not talking about Antonio. No, but he's done well. Antonio's done well. Like the wheels fall off, don't they? But I mean, I think one of the issues with West Ham and because a lot of this stuff that's being said by these journalists, that sort of veiled, there's a lot of veiled digs at West Ham fans. And I think if I wasn't doing Hammers Chat for a job, and I didn't have to listen to this stuff, because obviously what you want to get a story, you want to be as briefed as you can. You need to know what everyone's saying, particularly externally looking in. They'd have put me off. I'd have been put off by the mainstream media, because there is a dig. There is a dig. There's a snobbery. There is a definite mainstream media, be it Talk Sport or Sky, where a lot of them look down their nose. Not all of them. I listened on the radio yesterday. I think Danny Murphy was relatively supportive of West Ham fans' stance, actually. That can change and that can differ. And I mean, there's always a few. Dean Ashton is always one, but that always tells it as it is. But he's a bit biased. He's West Ham, isn't he? So he is going to be on our side. But I'm talking, maybe people that have never played for West Ham and that sort of thing. I think there's a snobbery. And what they don't take into account is, and I think it was Henry Winter was saying this. Henry Winter was saying, a lot of the fans got on David Moyes' back after he substituted Mikel Antonio against Newcastle. But he said David Moyes will know exactly at what point Antonio is no longer able to be fit. So he had to substitute him for Calvin Phillips. Well, half of that is right, and the other half is bloody wrong. And I'll tell you the half that's bloody wrong. The other half that's wrong is he didn't have to substitute with Calvin Phillips. And here is the problem. I totally accept that Mikel Antonio cannot play 90 minutes in every game. But why, oh why, has it taken him so long? And I could make the case, I'm not going to do it, I'm 2.5 years to sign a striker. 2.5 years. And that's from Sebastian Haller to now. Yes, Scamacca was done within that time. But I can make that case if I had to. If he knows by what Henry Winter was saying in the first part of when he was making his case, that Antonio is so important and so pivotal, and he has all this data and all this knowledge, why is something not in place? So the very measure of their defence of David Moyes, I think it also can be levelled as a criticism upon him. And I think you've got to be balanced with this stuff. I really do. And I'm talking externally. I think it's hard when you're a West Ham fan. It's hard to be balanced, isn't it? Because you care and you're passionate so much. And they only sort of take half the data, because there are a lot of reasons for West Ham to be frustrated with David Moyes. And there are a lot of reasons for West Ham fans to be grateful for David Moyes. But you will not find any of these reporters reporting what I just said. They will go. They will be very binary. They really, really will. You won't find them saying, well, West Ham fans are frustrated and also with David Moyes and also pleased with what he's done. We sort of get, I think we get levels against us that we're sort of ignorant, entitled certainly. Be careful what you wish for, all that stuff. I don't like it. But anyway, it certainly appears to be the case that David Moyes is going to leave West Ham because he feels that he is he's hard done by. He's underappreciated. And I don't think it's just the fans. I think he's underappreciated by the contract. And I think he's going to walk away with his head held high. And what I would say, and I mean from his point of view, what I would say is for him, I think that was a hell of a risk to go the extra season. And it might work out. It really might work out. Because the time to do it was actually the end of last season. If that's what you want to do, it's like that mic drop, isn't it? Bang. Win the club's first trophy in 43 years, bang. You don't like me, I'm off. See you later. Good luck winning another trophy. That's the way. That's the way to do it. I still think so I don't think anything betters that, but I still think you are going out on a high where you still get the mic drop moment if West Ham qualify. Forget about the winning the Europa League. If West Ham, the coefficient means that West Ham finish top 8 and 8th gets European football again next season. I think you've got a mic drop moment again. I really do. It's a case of 4 seasons of European football. I think it becomes a little bit of a poison chalice to take over, because not only have you got to come and take over from David Moyes, you've got to come over and take over from David Moyes, qualify for Europe and play good football. I'm not sure. That's too easy to do. And maybe, just maybe, that means we should retain David Moyes. But I would like to make the case that actually West Ham are willing to retain David Moyes. But David Moyes is just going to have to concede that he can't have everything he wants. There is an option for him to stay at West Ham, but let someone else do the transfers. And I think that's fair enough. He's shown an incompetency with it. The fact that we are so reliant on Mikel Antonio and he hasn't done anything is poor. His decision-making on Calvin Phillips is poor. The money he's lost time and time again on numerous players. It means, and this is not everything, he's not got everything bad. Let's be absolutely honest. Souček's been a good signing. A really good signing. Jared Bowen's been an exceptional signing. He really has. But I've got to say, James Ward-Prowse, bearing in mind the person he chased, is okay. I think we'd have been better off getting a lad from France whose name escapes me now. Nathan Gerd don't look too clever now. Looks like we're going to take a £15 million loss on him. The Vlasic one looks terrible. The striker situation ain't good, and Calvin Phillips looks terrible. There's enough evidence there to say, do you know what, David? We're going to give someone else a go at the transfers. Because the FFP and the prudent way they're trying to run it with profit and sustainability, we can't afford the Vlasic's, Dave. We cannot afford excessive loan fees on people like Calvin Phillips. We cannot afford to spend £25 million on a midfielder and he gets benched. We can't afford over the course of 24 months to lose over half of the value of a defender who you've been chasing for 2 years. We can't afford to do it, Dave. We're going to let someone else do the transfer. But we'd love you to stay as coach. But we're going to give you a nice proper balanced squad. I think there's a level of pride there from David Moyes, but also I would suggest cutting off his nose to spite his face, because I don't think he walks into a better job than West Ham. I don't think he walks into a better club than West Ham. I really don't. And I know we complain about it, and I complain about it. But it is. He ain't going to get the Arsenal job. He's not going to get the Man City job. He's not getting those. He's had the Man United job. It didn't work. He couldn't do it. This is his top level. It absolutely is his top level. But I found it interesting. There's no doubt in my mind. He's letting it be known. I'm out. Anyway, let me just deal with, and let me tell you about Bayern Leverkusen, the away leg. So the away leg, obviously, look, all the tickets are gone. If you haven't got a ticket, you can't travel over. If what you want to do is watch that game within the bosom of fellow West Ham fans, then we've got an event. The link is in the description below. It's at the Colour Factory at Hackney Wick. It's right next to Stratford. It's right next to Stratford. You might remember we did the event over in for the Conference League final, the Prague one. We did loads of videos from there. It was a raucous, drunken, and just a fantastic night, but obviously we won. So this is the first leg. The event is in the Colour Factory. The link is in the description below. Myself and Gio, we're going to be on stage doing basically a half an hour build-up. We'll be doing our normal build-up show, but we'll be doing it on stage. We've got the VIP area for Hammers Chat patrons, but we're opening it up now because we're basically... patrons have had 3 or 4 days to buy their tickets. We're opening it up now to Hammers Chat subscribers. What I would say is you get £5 off of the entry fee if you are a patron. Going to be on a big screen, bars there. Myself and Gio will be. I guess we'll be Micah Richards and Roy Keane, won't we? You can make up your mind who's who on that one in the build up to the game, and then we'll be in there. We're not going up. We're not going anywhere. We're going to watch the game together, and it should be really, really good fun. Check out the link; is in the description below. If you look underneath this video and you can't really see anything, there's a little V, like a little drop down arrow, and it will say "Read More." Click on that, read more. It will drop down. The link's there. Go and check it out. It's pointless me giving you all the details now. Go and read all the details, and then we'll be probably talking about it quite a lot for the remainder of the week. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a lot of good fun, but clearly we're not in control of the football result itself, are we? So, if we win, we've still got a second leg to go. So if you want to, technically you're going to both legs, aren't you? So I've got tickets for the home leg against Leverkusen. Obviously, we're doing the event for the away leg. Should be a lot of good fun. I think it's the second best thing to go in. If you can't go to Germany, then come to Hackney Wick and come and join us. Aside from that, let me know what you think about this David Moyes stuff.